1 FM, KPFA here in Berkeley, and 89.3 KPFB in Berkeley, 88.1 KFCF in Fresno, and online at kpfa.org. The time is now 6 p.m. Stay tuned for a special holiday edition of the KPFA Evening News.
And a local prosecutor in Guatemala is trying to prevent a militia there from conscripting peasants. So why is the country's attorney general trying to dismiss her? We'll have an exclusive KPFA report. I'm David Landau.
I'm Anthony Fest. We'll have these stories and more on the KPFA Evening News.
In news from Latin America, this from Guatemala, exclusive to KPFA. Attorney General Claudia Paz y Paz has removed one of her district prosecutors in a conflict marred by violence and apparent political intrigue. Prosecutor Gilda Aguilar survived a gunfire attack and was removed from her duties after uncovering evidence about a rural militia group. Attorney General Paz y Paz, who apparently tried to suppress that evidence, has received international praise as a crime fighter and a defender of human and women's rights. The Attorney General's policies, according to a statement by the U.S. Ambassador to Guatemala, enjoy the enthusiastic support of Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Prosecutor Aguilar, who until her dismissal had worked in the rural province of Huehuetenango, said her troubles began when she caught a case involving armed rural militia who had destroyed machinery and other property at a hydroelectric plant. During the armed assault on the property, one of the demonstrators had been killed. When officials from the district attorney's office went to investigate the killing, according to Aguilar, the militants held them for 5 hours and forced them to destroy evidence. The district attorney's office made 2 arrests. One of the arrested persons, Jaime Leocario, told Aguilar about the recruiting methods of the militants, called United Peasants Committee, or CUC. Prosecutor Aguilar spoke to KPFA from Guatemala.
Eran obligados.
The campesinos were pushed into taking part in demonstrations that supported the coup. Really, they were being forced to take part. If they went to the demonstrations, they received 100 quetzales from the coup. But if they didn't go, they had to pay 100 quetzales to the coup. If they didn't pay, they had to perform community labor in one of the villages. If they didn't perform the community labor, they were hounded and threatened, and their kids were not allowed into the schools. Those were the penalties for refusing to support a so-called human rights group.
De no prestar un servicio comunitario, eran azotados y amenazados a que sus hijos no iban a ser recibidos en las escuelas por no apoyar estas organizaciones que, entre comillas, se llaman de derechos humanos.
Aguilar said she felt that this testimony was relevant to her case and brought the witness before a judge. After that hearing, Aguilar authorized 10 arrest warrants in the case. The charges included destruction of property and kidnapping. But then, on August 2nd, the Attorney General herself paid a visit to the prosecutor's office about 140 miles from the capital city.
Ella y su secretario, con mucha molestia,
the Attorney General and her assistant were quite annoyed with me. They instructed another prosecutor to cancel the arrest warrants. They said the warrants were not legal because they should have been cleared with the Attorney General's office. But to me, that's completely illegal because prosecutors are bound by the law. When a law is broken, the prosecutors are required to act as quickly as possible and without consulting higher authorities.
Porque nosotros no, como fiscales, apegados a la ley, en delitos de acción pública tenemos que actuar sin hacer consultas a ningún inmediato superior.
Attorney General Paz y Paz began disciplinary hearings against Aguilar. CUC, the militants group, held a press conference, later published on YouTube, at which a spokesman called Aguilar nefarious, corrupt, and repressive, claiming that she and the judge had made an illicit bargain and were violating human rights. Aguilar asked the Interior Ministry for personal protection and was given a bodyguard. The Wednesday before last, at about 9:30 in the evening, Aguilar's car was traveling through the Sierra de los Cuchumatanes, a mountainous region, when the car had to stop at a barricade of rocks that had been placed on the road. The car was hit with a barrage of gunfire. The guard returned fire as Aguilar jumped out of the car. She hid in the tall grass. It was raining. The high-altitude temperatures were below freezing, and Aguilar's diabetic condition was aggravated.
Fueron momentos muy difíciles, que yo vi la muerte muy de cerca, de verdad.
Those were difficult moments. Really, I saw death very near. Hidden, freezing, and under the rain, I felt I was dying. I was sure my security guard had been killed, while the security guard thought that the driver and I had been killed in the car.
After waiting about an hour for the assailants to leave, Aguilar used her phone to call for a rescue. The security guard had been hit twice and seriously wounded by a bullet that lodged near his bladder. In the aftermath, Aguilar said, she was told by the Attorney General's office that the assault had been an attempted robbery. But then her own district attorney's office produced photos that showed the car hit with .45 caliber bullets. Aguilar said she received no support, either publicly or in private, from the Attorney General. Ricardo Mendez Ruiz is a journalist who knows Aguilar and the case. According to Mendez Ruiz, Attorney General Paz y Paz feels she can act with impunity because she receives a lot of support internationally. Mendez Ruiz said the U.S. Ambassador to Guatemala, Arnold Chacon, told him in an interview that Paz y Paz and her policies are enthusiastically supported by the United States.
Ambassador Chacon is one of the few ambassadors Secretary of State Clinton expressly receives when he arrives in Washington, and this is precisely due to her relationship with Claudia Paz y Paz.
Precisamente debido a la relación con Claudia Paz y Paz.
On Friday, Aguilar was in the middle of prosecuting a rape case when someone identifying himself as a messenger from the Attorney General entered the courtroom and declared that Aguilar was no longer on duty as a prosecutor. The case was halted and had to be rescheduled. In the aftermath, Aguilar suffered a diabetic coma. Now recovered, she says she hopes for a brighter future in which Guatemala is governed by the rule of law.
What a shameful legal system we have in this beautiful country. We shouldn't be living with violence. We should have peace and development. That's what all Guatemalans are wishing for.
The government of Guatemala did not return KPFA's request for a comment on this story. The U.S. Department of State told KPFA it had no comment. This story was produced in Guatemala by Armando de la Torre and Steve Hecht.
And other news from Latin America,